to share? What are the reasons? And I'm sure that there are many reasons in your mind. I mean, as teachers, as educators, as school heads, administrators, success, happiness is what we strive for our students, for our teachers, for each one of us. Well, dear participants, dear friends, the answer is just one word. The reason for many of our efforts at improving our success or happiness and unraveling, the answer is just one word. And the research that we're going to present to you today, they say that the root cause that why our efforts are failing is just in one, let me put it this way, one organ of our body. Any guesses? Where is the root cause located? You'd be surprised to know.
The mind.
It's the mind. Yes.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, it is the mind. And the rest of our presentation today sharing is all about this beautiful organ, the mind, and how it can serve but can also sabotage. So this is the crux of what we are sharing. And research today says, so although we, Renald and I have kept this presentation light and so on, but there is a whole lot of research behind it. We'll give you the references if you like, but research today very clearly indicates that the difference between how often your mind serves you vis-a-vis how often it sabotages you and your efforts, that determines how much of our true potential for success and happiness we actually achieve. And this is not just in terms of a definition or a statement. The entire thing can be read. There's a whole lovely book by a Stanford professor, Shirzad Shameen, and the book's name itself is Positive Intelligence. And Shirzad has tried to identify why only 20% of teams and individuals achieve their true potential. So this was the driving question behind the research. And today, this work has caught the global coach community like fire. We're all burning with fire. We're all excited. And our own experiences are now in such a plane that we say, yes, we know what he's talking about, and we are able to see that. So once again, what is positive intelligence? Most of you have brought this up, that what is EQ, IQ, all that, but what is positive intelligence? Very simple definition: the percentage of time that your mind serves you against the time that it is sabotaging you and your efforts. So that's the definition. And just as we have EQ, IQ score, the work done by Shirzad gives us a PQ score as well. And Busala, I foresee that in years to come, just as you said, that EQ, multiple intelligence, these were all things that eventually came to schools. I see this coming up in a big, big way. So PQ score is a percentage, expressed as a percentage ranging from 0 to 100. And interestingly, it is a score of 75 that is said to be the critical tipping point. That if I have that score, then that's where I begin to achieve my truest potential for success and happiness. And I just say a yes, no. How many of you have been able to get your PQ scores? You don't have to share with us unless you want to, but okay. So Busula has that with her. So it'll be anybody else who's done the test?
Deborah as well, she had her hand up.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, okay, lovely, lovely, lovely. So, okay, great. See, Busala, once again, so we have the right people here. So yes, you have your scores in front of you, and what we're looking at, the whole thing is that no matter whether it's at 40, 60, 75, we're looking at better score and better happiness and better performance. So those of you who may not have done it, please go ahead, do this test for yourself. Research concludes that PQ is the most widely used measure of mental fitness. Let me also at this point share that Shirzad, although he's a Stanford professor, but by virtue of him being a coach, most of this work today is known in the corporate sector. And so there, when we talk about the mental fitness, this is what we would be measuring it with. And it's still to percolate down the education systems. So most widely used measure of mental fitness and greatest predictor of your happiness and performance. So how happy you are. And please, at this point of time, don't look at your scores. For that, we can have a one-on-one conversation later on, or of course, even now, but don't get too carried away. But yes, it is your mental fitness is the greatest predictor of happiness and performance vis-a-vis
And
your
also, if I
potential.
may add, Shamin, the score that you may have received is not a value judgment. It's not to say, oh my God, I am so bad at this or anything. It's a good indicator and a good starting point for you to know, right, okay, so there's some work that I can do to improve. So more look at it more from that standpoint rather than thinking, oh my God, I need to be 75% and above, because if I'm not, then I must be so bad. That's not it at all. It just shows where you are at this point in time, and it also shows, of course, that you can do some work to improve, and
Yeah.
that's the gift in that.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. And the maximum that people score is around 90. And there will always be times when, your man might sabotage. So it's all part of being human. Again, going back to Busala, see, that's what you get when you have the nice video and the smile on. I keep remembering all that you have said more. So while we all want to be better human beings, being a human is also those fluctuating PQ scores. So if you have doubts, go ahead, do it once again in a gap of 2 to 3 weeks, look at the scores again. But typically this test, we advise to do it on a day which is more or less a normal day for you. Yeah, once again, a reminder, if you have questions, please just ask or put it on the chat or comments. Moving on to what is the significance of PQ in terms of our achievement? A simple formula to explain that. Again, a research-based formula, achievement and our potential. Yes, how happy, how successful, what is that? What is the potential that I have? Today, research says gets multiplied by this one little score, which is unheard of. So while achievement is all about for performance, success, happiness, potential for us is, of course, my inherent IQ, the skills that I have collected so far, the knowledge that I have, the experience that I have collected, the network that I have created, the EQ that I have. And when I multiply this with my PQ score, the product of this is my actual achievement. Sorry. And the beauty of this work is, personally, I totally love this aspect of it, that while IQ, well, I might just say this is the IQ that I have. Skills, well, I've tried my best to learn everything that could make me a good coach or a teacher or a presenter. There is a certain amount of limitation that I may have come until now. Knowledge. I do read, but I know I need to read more and it'll take me longer. Experience. I mean, I need to go through every day. Network. It'll take its own time. EQ. I am having this. So this is something that we consider is long term. But dear friends, PQ, and from research, again and again, I'm going to repeat that, is something that can be worked on in a very, very short time. And as teachers and educators, this is what I want you to pay attention, that many a times we are stuck where our students' performance is concerned. They have a certain IQ, they have certain skills, they have certain EQ, and they are stuck. What can you do? See if you can get them to do the PQ score. And that goes for us as well. So is it possible to dramatically improve one's PQ? Yes, that too in a relatively short time. Would you believe me if I say in a short, how short a period do you think I'm going to say? That whatever score you are seeing, no matter whether it's 30, 50, 60, Reynold and I are here to claim that you can dramatically improve it, and that too in a short time. Any guesses the time that we probably have in our minds?
Yeah, so I think even within minutes, it can be done because based on the questions that was asked from the test and looking at it, because in terms of, no, so I'm going to respond to this and I have a question for you, but I don't know if you're going to cover it ahead of time. But if you're going to, just tell me that you're going to do that. So I wonder. So, see, I think in a matter of minutes, you can really improve your test score. It doesn't have to take like 24 hours because first, if it's a matter of the mind, it starts with the mindset shift. But looking at the question, I've heard that there are also some, for example, if I'm a teacher in a school or I'm a student that is studying in a very toxic environment, or as a teacher, I don't have the power to fix some of the things that is affecting my student, because I really love this concept in the sense that it goes beyond just trying to help the student understand their performance beyond just what I'm teaching them in class or what they're listening to. But what if there are other factors that influences them, maybe that triggers them, maybe at home where they're coming from, the kind of environment where they, after they leave my class and go back to stay. So I've been thinking when you're talking about how do we help at workplace if I don't have the decision-making power to really influence or turn things around. So how do I help them to turn around even in a short time their PQ and really improve themselves? Because sometimes, yeah, people might not tell us, oh, you've started like motivational speakers that say this, oh, it's about yourself, it's about your mind, touches about what if there are external factors. So how do we balance that? So that's my thinking here.
All right.
And
Yes.
question.
Yes. You've covered it very nicely for us that it is possible from minute to minute. And of course, what we're looking at is a PQ score, which is consistent, irrespective, as you rightly brought up, the external circumstances. So thank you, and more on it as we move on. And you've given us some very valuable insights. Anybody else, any guesses on if I need to move my PQ score from say 40 to 45 or 55 to 58, how long will I need? Wild guesses, just go ahead and guess.
Seconds?
Say again.
I said seconds.
All right.
Or days, 1 day. If it's a 24-hour, if I do it in like different 24-hour time blocks, that I think I can like be intentional about what I'm doing, how I'm thinking about the day, or how
Sure.
I'm not reacting, but responding to things that my day may bring. And so by the time I take it again, my intentionality should reflect in my score, I believe.
Great points. And what we're looking at, Busola, that when we say a higher PQ score, whether a second or a day, and let me add here a score that would remain consistently with you. So it's not that, so definitely within a minute, your perceptions and your responses can change. And from a 50, you may be in a 75 zone. But can a Busola or can a Deborah remain, or can a Reynolds remain in that 75 for a longer period? And that kind of work, what we're looking at is within 6 weeks period, by and large, is a period where consistently you have worked and your scores, the score then that what comes has a longer lasting effect. So more permanent change out here. And at this stage, can I ask you all to do a small little exercise once again? Because I want to see share with you something, and let's get on with some kinesthetic activity. Are we ready? Say a yes. Unmute and say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only one.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
that's nice. I'm hearing a louder yes. Okay, now Reynold, I need your help to do the timing here.
Yes.
And so what we're going to do is, I'm going to ask you to write down a number first on the sheet of paper that you have. Thereafter, when we say time starts now, we're going to give you 30 seconds to do whatever I'm going to say. All right. So the first part of the exercise is, how many dots do you think you can put on a paper in 30 seconds? Write down that number. If you're done, just scream yes, done.
Done.
Don't think.
Done.
Some more. Yeah. All right. All the numbers. are on the paper?
Yes.
Okay. Now when we say time starts, you will get on to making your dots. All right? And we'll stop when Renal says stop. 1, 2, 3, start.
Stop.
So the exercises just go on on the paper.
And stop. Time's
All right.
up.
So very quickly, each one of you, how many did you think you would put and how many did you manage? Please count and tell us that.
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I wrote the number 20, but I had 46.
Okay. Next.
I had
20.
100. I wrote down 100. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I had 20. I wrote down 20 and, well, I stopped at 20. And I had some extra time to spare, so.
Okay. Yes, the rest of you.
Jimo, what were
I
your
wrote
results?
20 and I have 60 dots on my book.
20. Jimo wrote 20 and he's got 60.
All right.
Busola?
I'm still trying to count. So I wrote 100, though, but I think I have more than 100. I have like slightly above 100.
Who's not answering? Yeah.
I wrote
30.
200. Okay. I wrote 200, but I have above 200. Those still counting.
Wow.
All right.
Yay.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody who's
Okay.
written? Oh, yeah.
I wrote 30. I was counting as I was putting the dot down and I have 86.
Wow.
How much is it? You wrote 30.
So
and-
Deborah wrote 30 and she's got 86.
And I had 86.
Anybody who wrote a number and got lesser than that? And how does this make you feel? Whatever you've been able to do. One word to describe your feeling at this moment.
I think for me, I'm looking at this and I feel I've been limiting my capabilities.
Let me do this. Let me do this. Now I'll get you on the chat box. So each one of you put down your feeling as you see your number and the actual results. Very quickly on the chat box. Tuck, tuck, tuck.
Wow.
One,
Accomplished.
yeah.
Let's see. Bushola said accomplished.
One feeling
Anybody
that you're
else?
experiencing right now.
I think Miss Oluwatuminumi.
So Oluwatomininu.
Happy.
Yes.
Excuse. Sorry. It's a beautiful
Oluwatomininu.
name. I just have Oluwatumininu.
Tumininu, that's comfort in Yoruba.
Comfort. I like that. So
I see potential. Yeah.
potential, I see. We had happy.
Yeah.
Anything else? I thought 100 was outrageous, but it was good to see that absolutely I could do it. And this Deborah, I wrote 30, got 86. This made me feel I've been limiting my capabilities. Exactly. We can always do more than we think.
Yeah.
So this proves that.
This is
And
about.
I'm curious to hear from Jimo and Ife Jesu as well. What were your experiences? Anything you'd like to share? Fulfilled? Fantastic. All very positive.
Yes, and this exercise, we've done this with many people in our workshops, and each time I do it, I see responses like this. It's a very simple exercise. Go ahead and please do it with your students and your staff as well. It's a very uplifting and it's a very honest exercise that look, I mean, there is no manipulation here. You thought, okay, you can put 20 and here you are putting 86. It's right there. It's such a small, short exercise, 30 seconds, and a huge indicator of our limiting beliefs that what we're really capable of doing. And that goes, so whosoever, yes, it was lovely to hear that your belief that we can change our PQ score in a very short time. But if you put your efforts into it, then 6 weeks program, 6 weeks time frame is what generally shows amazing results. So, and what we're sharing here now onwards is simple strategies that you can pick up from this masterclass and apply to your own lives and see the wonders of the work that we're talking about. How do we dramatically improve? Okay, now onwards is going to be more of talk. And if you get bored of my talk, you stop me. But now it's going to be more of the theory as we call. So how do we dramatically improve our PQ? 2 steps, we say: understanding the neuroscience of the brain and some very simple tools and techniques. Simple, yet very powerful. And once again, all that we're talking about is based on positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology, performance science. If you pick up the book that we have put here or connect with us, we can give you the literature, the research behind, but the sum total is that behind what we're saying is solid research work. And it all boils down to 3 core muscles at the root of our mental fitness. Just as in colors, there are 3 primary colors which create hundreds and hundreds of colors. Today, research says that there are just 3 core mental muscles that you need to work on to improve your mental fitness. And that's all from neuroscience of the brain. And the 3 muscles, and since we don't always work with teachers and the caliber that you hold, so for layman terms, the muscles, the way we describe is saboteur interceptor muscle, sage muscle, and self-command. I'll go with the saboteur, Renal will help me with the sage, and then come back to self-command. So what are the 2 muscles that we're talking about? These 2 muscles, they are in different parts of, and by the way, when I'm talking about all this, apart from everything I told you, I think I must share and there are documentaries even in Netflix and so on. These muscles are actually there, and MRI results show muscles lighting up with different responses. So the saboteur intercept muscle is on the left side, the sage muscle on the right. Saboteur is what we call as the brainstem or the limbic system, parts of the left brain. And this is the brain that is the survivor brain, the brain that has always been there from our ancestors, the brain that helped us survive through life. And the other one is the sage, the middle and the prefrontal cortex, the empathy circuitry, parts of the right brain. And this brain is what is connected to what we call the positive intelligence brain. And as you may be thinking that most of the times, this is where we operate from our survival instincts. And this concept makes us look at the whole new aspect of the sage muscle, the positive intelligence brain, the unutilized part of our brain, most of us. And of course, the score is an indicator of who is using which part of the brain more. The higher your score indicates that you're using more of your sage muscle vis-a-vis your saboteur muscle. How do we know? Okay, more than one more step into the intricacy of the saboteur muscle, that it's not just one muscle, but we say that there are 10 saboteurs residing there. And when we refer to the sage muscle, we talk about the 5 superpowers that each one of us have that becomes in totality the sage muscle. How do we know at any point of time which is the brain that you're using? It's the feeling. So if you notice throughout the presentation until now, I kept on asking you, what is the feeling that you're having? What is a feeling? Each time, if you felt some kind of stress, and that stress could be, oh, my daughter is in the next room and I need to give her the breakfast, or anger, why am I here? Or guilt, oh no, why didn't I do that before sitting here? it's your saboteur muscle. And when it comes to your positive emotions, so some of you referred to in the beginning that you're feeling curious about what's happening, what are they going to offer, what is this positive intelligence all about? If that is what you are at this moment, then that shows it's the sage that you are operating from. So emotions like empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, and purpose. A very, very simple indication of which part of your brain is active at any given moment of time. And what this work says that while we may have been told that all these emotions are important and they can be the driving force for your happiness and success, research proves otherwise. This research says can never be your best option. Your best option, your most productive self, the most happiest self is when you are in this moment. The moment I am getting stressed out, I'm looking at the time and oh my God, what's the time? My saboteurs are coming in the way. My left brain is coming in the way. So it might generate success, but I might not enjoy the process. For me to enjoy this process, for us to enjoy, it is about being in our sage mind. This process, life in general, work in general, relationships in general. So to generate your highest success and remember sustained happiness, we're looking at developing our sage muscles. How do we dramatically improve? Once again, understanding the neuroscience and the tools. And there are 3 strategies where we look at the tools. So put it very simply, we're looking at weakening your saboteur muscles. Now remember, saboteur muscle, one word, if you remember in the very first slide, it was a survivor, the survivor brain. So we need, so long as we are alive, we need to be able to survive. So it has a definite function and it cannot go away. But what we're looking at, so not always it is about survival. So right now, if I'm going to suddenly see the earth shattering, I will get tensed and my survival instincts have to come up. But as compared to our ancestors or the times that earlier generations lived in, we don't need to be in the survival mode all the time. So we need to weaken that muscle, strengthen the sage. And how do we do it is through the self-command. So firstly, focusing on the saboteur muscle. Before I go on here, a quick sound voice check-in. How am I doing? If you can shout good, okay, terrible. 3 options. Just scream which word comes to you.
Awesome. You're doing awesome.
Great,
That's
great.
just all right. Thank you so much. Thank you. So first bit is weakening the saboteur, and we as PQ coaches tend to fall in love with this part first, but I will remember to tell you that don't just get hung on this. This is a very fascinating bit, weakening the saboteur. The constant chatter in our minds. If you notice, this was the buddy who somewhere brought in that thought in my head, check with the audience, they're all quiet and they've still not come on the video. So are you really doing well? I mean, are you talking more than what you should talk? That chatter which is going on in my head, even while I am talking to you. And we call this, oh, sorry, the master saboteur, the judge. The judge who is constantly making that chatter in my head, in your head, where number 1, we're judging ourselves. Am I dressed properly? Am I sitting in the right place? Have I timed the session properly? The judge judging others. The judge judging others. Look at that. Did you see the change in my facial expression? The moment I clicked that wrong, I was like, why did you do that? That's the judge. If you can see that, a quick live natural example of how, look at that. I'm stumbling because I've forgotten. Somewhere my judge is saying, oh dear, why did you click that? And now, and a whole series of events where I'm now forgetting what was my next sentence going to be. That's, ladies and gentlemen, an example of a live saboteur in action. The master saboteur, the judge, and thereafter, research today also says that it's not just the master judge, but there are 9 accomplice saboteurs. these together form what we call your saboteur muscle, the left brain. And there's a whole gamut of these lovely people, the saboteurs there. How many of you have been able to do the saboteur assessment test? The second one? Deborah's done that? Okay. It'll be great if you've done that, because this test gives you, like, just like your blood reports. So if I'm not feeling well, what's wrong with me? And my blood report will tell me that, okay, it's my, the RBC count or my platelets or blah, blah, blah. What's going on out here? Who's really causing all the trouble? Ta-da! It's the saboteur assessment test, which you have links to, and it gives us, yeah.
Yeah. So a question for you. So like that, those saboteur tests. So from experience and all of that, how often, maybe for example, I was also thinking that so that one does not get too paranoid in terms of just doing them always and always. So how will you advise? Because I love the 6 week of the other one for master, because like coaches will tell you that any action, any habit you practice for 6 weeks, you become proficient with it. But in terms of this saboteur test, is it that I should do it? How frequent should one do it? Because so that one does not get into a point of becoming paranoid in terms of doing it. Yeah.
All right, please. Thank you once again for bringing that up. It's ease and flow, and we would say that, all right, if you've worked intentionally, then we would say every 3 weeks is fine. But other than that, you're not supposed to be doing it every day and so on. And so thank you. I'll also share certain warnings. Please remember, each one of us will have all these 9 saboteurs. Number 1, they're all going to be there. We all have them, no matter how much work we do on ourselves. Each one of, okay, let me take you here. This is what typically a saboteur assessment report will show. This is, let's say, some Mary's assessment report. For Mary, the stickler is high and the avoider is the lowest. For me, it could be bang opposite. So each one of us have all the 9 saboteurs. Each one of us at different points of time might even see a change happening. So they're not to be taken too seriously, but they are great indicators of the work that we can do on ourselves. And if you look at the details, okay, this one I'll ignore.
If I may add, Shamin, also as well, because if you do the assessment again and again and again, you drive yourself mad, which is not the purpose of the whole thing. Also bear in mind, it's a snapshot of where you are at that particular point in time. Like Shamim rightly said, we all have all these saboteurs within us, and at various stages, depending on what we're going through, depending on what challenge we're facing, one might act out stronger than the other. So you might be facing something like, for instance, it's not advisable to do this test whilst you're on holiday, right? Because you're in relax mode, you're in Zen mode, but if you're dealing with relationships, problems, probably a different saboteur might be active. If you're dealing with problems at work, it might be another saboteur. The beauty of this is to get to know what each of them do, what their lies are. And from that, you can then regain yourself and put in and activate your sage mode. But that comes a bit further along. But that's just to sort of put it into perspective and to sort of answer your question that, no, definitely don't do it daily or too often. But it's a snapshot of where you are at the point of taking the test. But it's good to have an awareness of how do they manifest in my life? What lies are they telling me, and how do I act according to those lies? And from there, you have some great insights and also some great opportunities to make different choices. So that's the power of that.
Lovely. And look again, So this is typically the format of, I mean, you'll see it once you do the assessment, you will be able to see each of the description of each of the saboteur, what it means. So typically, we're not going into details, but these are the various aspects. So a description, characteristics, thoughts. What are the thoughts that go behind having a particular saboteur? Controller, I just picked up because this is one saboteur which is there in most of us, at least most of the times. What are the thoughts? So, for example, the characteristics of somebody with a high controller is strong energy and need to control and take charge. The thoughts could be you're either in control or out of control. How do I feel? Somebody with a high saboteur. Dear participants, if one thing I request you to take away is, and if you're planning to do or if you've already done a saboteur assessment, your saboteurs are not you. So never ever say something like this, I am a high controller. I am a controller. Or if you happen to share, like let's say Deborah and Busola are looking at each other's reports, which we would encourage you to do. It's not about, Deborah, you are restless, or, Busola, I am a stickler. You're not. It's a saboteur that you have. So the language that you use, please be mindful. So somebody who has a high controller will have these thoughts. He or she will have these feelings, high anxiety when things are not going their way, angry, intimidating when others don't follow. And each of these saboteurs, they have a justification lies. Now, here is the trick, Gabanga, that each one will tell you, beta, you need me. You'd be not as successful or happy. I warn you, don't try to listen to this lady out here. Early Saturday morning, she's coming, she's telling you this, that I don't have to be a controller. No way, without me, you cannot get much done. And today I've reached a status and I'm a teacher, I'm a head, or I'm a mother, or I'm a father. How can I not be a controller? So beware of the justification lies. Each of these saboteurs, they actually were meant to be or are your greatest strength. But down the line, dear friends, we have overused, abused, and misused, and they've turned into saboteurs. So you don't need them anymore, and beware of the justification lies, because there is an impact that it has on you and on others. So for example, somebody with controller would manage to get temporary results, but at the cost of probably others feeling controlled, or he or she having health issues, and so on. And further, the report also gives you that why these saboteurs were there in the first place. But as I said, we don't need them anymore. Time to, if you really want to work on your positive intelligence, time to weaken them. And now we move on to, so this was the saboteur bit. Weaken this muscle and don't get hung up on that. Renal, my sage, over to you. Help us understand how do we strengthen the sage muscle.
Absolutely. So firstly, the sage. What is the sage, or who is the sage really? Any ideas from the group? Any thoughts that you might want to put in?
In the actual sense of the word, a sage is supposed to be a wise man who is in control of his life in every aspect, who is a leader, an influencer, like a guru in the Indian term, so to speak.
Beautiful. And we all are, in that sense, our own guru. So our sage is really our true essence. Our sage is who we were born to be. Our sage is who we are in our true nature, really. And it's no surprise that our sage is on that side of our brain where our positive emotions live, is on that side of our brain where our creativity is, where our clear-headed focus is, where we have those Zen feelings. It's in that area where, when you do something and it just flows and it just feels natural. There's no stress, no wahala, there's nothing like that. It just flows. That's your sage. And this is the part where we're going to look at what the sage perspective is. So the sage perspective is all about finding in every outcome or circumstance, everything can be turned into a gift or an opportunity. Now, if you just stop and think about that for a minute, how powerful is that? When you look at everything, regardless, without judgment, when you look at anything that happens in your life and try to find a gift or an opportunity in that, that is game-changing and an amazingly powerful way of looking at circumstances, looking at life without judging it, but purely looking at, right, okay, so factually, this is what has occurred now. What's the gift in this? What can I learn from it? How can I move on from that? So that's the sage perspective. And with the sage perspective, and with your sage, come 5 distinct sage powers. These are your superpowers.
May I add at this time
Of
that
course.
when we talk about the sage perspective, that every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity, I think most of us will be able to relate to it even from a philosophical or religious point of view. We've all heard that, whatever happens, happens for best, this and that. So at a certain level, I'm sure each one of you is nodding and saying that, all right, I mean, this doesn't seem to be anything new. The distinction here is that when we look at positive intelligence, we are not looking at the gifts and opportunities to emerge on their own. So it's not a passive sitting back at things and saying, okay, let me see now what is the gift in this, or yeah, there must be some gift. No, it's not from there. It's about actively seeking out those gifts. And an example that I share each time I do a masterclass is my daughter's first migraine attack. So I have a 12-year-old, and the first time when she complained of things like at 6 o'clock in the evening, Mama, I can't see. I am not able to understand what's going on. I can see some dots. As a parent, for me, who had never thought something like that can happen, I was going mad. I'm like, so I am a composed person, I'm a cool person, I can be in charge of situations, but to handle that. And suddenly she being very incoherent. She says, I wanted to go for a bath. And she hates baths, and she says, I want to go for a bath. So for me, it was my saboteurs were dancing the dance of death. That what is happening? And Corona. So I am looking at, oh my God, this time do I have to rush her to the hospital? Am I, okay, let me not just stop here. And I was thinking the worst. But at that time, by virtue of being part of this work, I'm asking myself, what's the gift in this? What's the gift in this? And I could get an answer that, okay, maybe the gift is I will be able to scream at her when she's fine. And I'll say, you've been watching a lot of TV, and that's why you're getting all these headaches. It may sound trivial, but trust me, at that point of time, seeing that little gift soothed my nerves. So instead of being a nervous wreck and not being able to make a decision, I was able to listen to my husband, who said, okay, calm down. So that was the personal experience of me being able to see a gift in perhaps my worst nightmare, or those of us who have a little child at home, something that we can relate to. That being able to see the gift in my worst nightmare helped me to overcome, weaken my saboteur, and get into the sage perspective. But we're not talking about extreme situations like these, and talking about day-to-day work as well. Renald, over to you again.
Thank you very much for that addition. That would, hopefully that made it very clear as well for everybody, everybody there, all the participants here. It is indeed not a sort of passive sitting back, and thinking, oh my goodness, but it is actively seeking out what can I learn from this, and how can I improve, or how can I move on from this? So we're getting now to the sage powers, the superpowers, as it were, and these are empathize, explore, there we go, innovate, navigate, and activate. And in order to strengthen those, there are specific exercises, or we call them games as well, that we can do. Like for instance, with empathize. Empathize is all about loving kindness to yourself, loving kindness to others. And if you picture a child, you have to be from a different planet to look at a child and not get loving and warm feelings, right? So similarly, if we look at the empathize power and we were to apply, the empathize power to ourselves, we can look at or imagine ourselves as a child, as our younger selves, because that's our true essence and the love that we can get to that. So doing those exercises helps you strengthen that power. We've got explore, and the power game for that is the fascinated anthropologist. And as anthropologists do, they are very curious. They want to know everything about everything. They want to know how things work, how people behave, or why do they act this way, or who, and doing so from a standpoint of being fascinated. No judgment, again, because the sage is not about judgment at all. It's purely about wanting to know, wanting to learn. And this is what the explore power is all about. It's actively exploring what's going on, what am I feeling, what is the other person feeling, or what's this situation all about, what's actually happening here, without any sort of judgment in it. The innovate, that's the yes and this is it's a fun game, and it's a different way of looking at things, and it goes off the premise that whoever is in front of you, and whatever opinion they may have, they're always 10% right. And the power in that is actually acknowledging that somebody else has an opinion and may actually be, regardless of where we're coming from, regardless of what we're thinking, there is some truth in what they're saying. And it is about respecting that and acknowledging that. And it's very powerful in relationships, definitely, with teams as well, because it prevents situations where, you start screaming over each other, or somebody start to force an agenda. So the yes and game is all about acknowledging what the other person says. And this is then when you come with an addition too. So the acknowledging is, yes, what I like about the idea, that is acknowledging the other, is seeing the other and acknowledging their opinion. And this does wonders for diffusing situations or de-escalating situations. The navigate is flash forward. That's another beautiful exercise. And this is all about consulting your wiser elder self. So not your older self. I made that mistake in the beginning. Not your older self, but your elder self. And we're all familiar. I'm making a wild assumption here, but we're all from cultures where we respect our elders, right? We respect the opinion of our elders, and our elders have enormous wisdom. And with this game, it is flashing forward to your elder self. So you being the elder to yourself, and what advice would you give yourself? What encouragement would you give yourself? What empowering words would you give to yourself? And that's what the navigate power is all about. And then we're going to the activate. And activate,
Brennan,
yes.
May I just share something at this bit of time?
Of course.
Since many of you are working with youth and young people, as a teacher, I relate, because there are times when you kind of, you want to tell them that you need to study, you need to do this, otherwise, you don't understand, the future will be this. We wreck our nerves and we break our heads, and they don't seem to understand according to us. And this exercise I have found very, very helpful with even young people. So when we work with them, and initially I felt that, I mean, for them, this exercise is out of question. But even as young as 20 have been able to see their wiser elder self, and at times have surprised me how they have said that, yeah, 10 years from now, I can see that my wiser self telling me this. And imagine what great implication it has on improving their PQ. With an improved PQ, they are multiplied by their potential and their achievement. Just felt like sharing that.
Yeah,
Renan.
no, that's good, and it's good for context, Shamin. So thank you very much for that addition. Once again, it gives a good context in how, in a learning environment, how this could be implemented. So the next power game is the activate. Now, obviously, once you've gone through the steps and you've come to your clear-headed action or your laser-focused action, bear in mind that your saboteurs are still in the background niggling. Simply because you could see your saboteurs as your own survival mechanisms that served you at one point, but are not serving you anymore. And they're very strong, and they will not want to give up their power because they kept you safe. And all they're saying is, oh, we have to stay safe. What is this? What are you doing? What is, no. So it's good to preempt. Once you have an awareness of what your saboteurs are, or which saboteurs could be activated, it's very good to preempt. How would they take me out? What lies would they tell me? What behaviors or things could they do that would prevent me from taking that clear-headed action, from being bold and fearless, from being laser focused? And it's very powerful as well, because when you know that, again, it puts you at choice. You then have the power of deciding which way to go. Am I staying sage, or am I going the saboteur ways? Now, we all know that the saboteur come with negative emotions such as fear, anxiety, stress, anything ease, flow, that's sage.
Renald, at this point of time, I mean, I'm just thinking of check with yourselves, each one of you, while you're listening to us. And so when Renald is giving you these power games, they are so simple, and you might be, oh, really? Visualize a child, fascinated. With this, I can improve my PQ score. I mean, it sounds exciting. And then check whether the saboteurs are around, saying, come on, not possible. I mean, it can't be so simple. If that was the case, I mean, people would have already been talking about PQ and da, 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 da. So preempt the saboteur. While some of you might be thinking, okay, let me try the yes and game. Let me try the flash forward. Let me try. And please note that we're talking, it's a masterclass. We're not really going into the depth of it yet. You might be tempted to take few actions and your saboteurs will stop you. So probably it's the victim, it's the hyper-rational, whichever. So preempt the saboteurs. Renald, are we good?
We're good. Yes.
All right. I just checked time, and I took you initially 90 minutes, and we've crossed our 90 minutes. Are you good if you can give us another 10 minutes or 15 minutes to wind up? Say a yes or say a no.
Yes.
Are we able to catch your hold your attention so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Because
like
we'll
the number 3, Dr. Shamin, like the number 3, like I wanted to say that when Rena was speaking, but they innovate yes and game, I think it's powerful because I've seen it being used in where I work in our facilitation skills. So we usually tell our facilitators that once you want to make contribution or you are talking with people, one of the ways to manage the conflict situation is first say yes, then you now bring your own opinion. I've seen it work. My supervisor always use that term, and whenever she uses it, it makes everybody at ease. And at the end of the day, you end up doing what she wants you to do, but you feel that your own view has been heard, and it douses tension. So it's a powerful game.
Absolutely, and it's so true what you're saying, because indeed, what would drive most of us crazy is if you have some input, you have something to say, and it's completely being lambasted and nobody's listening to it, or you feel like you're not being heard or not being seen, that is stuff that would trigger major saboteurs. So in that sense, it is very, very powerful. So thank you for that addition.
I see Busola's hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Reynolds. I'm not sure I understand fully the fascinated anthropologist activity again. So can you just please reinforce it a bit? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe if I highlighted with what an anthropologist actually does. Let's just say I'm an anthropologist and I've landed in Portugal, and on my travels in Portugal, I've come across this tribe of Portuguese people that I'd never ever heard of before. And I'm really curious of what are their rituals? What is their food? What's their structure of their society? And why do they behave the way they behave? And the fascinating part is not me looking at that and thinking, oh, well, that's silly. Why would they do that? You know, this is Europe. Why? I don't understand. And they should be doing this and they should be doing that. It's more looking at being fascinated and looking at, well, wow, so they do this. And I wonder why that is. So if you take it down to, let's say if you bring it more to a personal situation, right? And let's say I have my moments where sometimes I'm stressed out, right? The fascinated anthropologist bit, my exploration would be, right, okay, so I feel stressed. Why do I feel stressed? What brought it on? What was that thing that happened before the feelings of stress came in? What is the root cause of my stress? What urges do I feel now? What am I feeling like doing to distract myself, right? What saboteurs could be active right now and whispering in my ear that, or is my judge saying to me, see, well, you didn't finish this on time and this is why you're stressed. And you're stressed, and this is because, you know, you don't stick to your agendas, you don't keep a proper this, you don't keep a, and this is sort of bringing it to a then more personal level. And when you do that exploration, you can then see what the saboteur lies are.
Renald, I am tempted to share, Busula, if you read more or if you understand more, and in fact, at this stage also, many people that we work with, they take up the saboteur assessment test for themselves. They're able to see, all right, these are my top saboteurs. And I'm sure out of the 7 of you who are here, at least 5 of you will do, and you'll go and tell your colleague or your partner or your child and say, go ahead and do this. And if you do that, whether you do that or not, at a point of time, you'll begin to wonder, so that's where the anthropologist. So what probably is this fellow's top saboteur? And you might just realize that, all right, so I might have my high controller and let's say my partner, and where we always thought, you know, he's good for nothing. All right, it is the avoider. So the interplay, the dance of the saboteurs, and we begin, so when we are in an explore mode, rather than getting all angry and agitated, we begin to look at each other as fascinated anthropologists, that I wonder now, what have I done and which saboteur of his or hers is triggered? So from anger, we shift to fascination.
Fascination, absolutely. And in that fascination, you look at yourself, you look at the situation and the other. Does that answer your question a bit, Busola? Fantastic.
Yes, it does.
And
thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So
We had Mr. Bengba wanted to say something.
No. I said I love the use of term that Dr. Shamir used. He said the dance of the saboteurs. So,
we'll have fun. Trust us.
True.
And also beware, you might have your guesses, and sometimes when you get them to do the assessment and you'll feel, oh my god, I thought this was this and this is not this. So well, this is just one masterclass. We've got, as coaches also, we say we've got much to learn, but it's a great beginning to take things life easily and enjoy a tremendous shift in our lives. Once again, Renal, we move on to the next bit, the third aspect.
Yes.
Now, all this sounds great as on a Saturday afternoon, we are talking to each other, the weekend, the saboteur, and heighten your sage. But imagine in the middle of a situation where you really want to tear either your hair or somebody else's hair. How do you manage to do that? And that's a time when you'll remember us and say, all right, it all was good in theory, but how do you shift? And that's about the third muscle, the self-command. So there is a third muscle, which when we work on, that's the muscle responsible for helping us shift from the saboteur mindset to the sage mindset. And unless you work on this, the rest of the thing is just theory. And how do you do that? How do you strengthen your self-command muscle? It's as simple as, dear friends, working on your physical muscles. So in the work that we are talking about, we are consciously looking at, just as we develop our physical muscles, simple exercises that we call as PQ reps, continuously practicing doing these 10-second PQ reps and strengthening your self-command muscle. So then it's not the brain, you're not listening to the brain, or the brain is not commanding you, but you are commanding your brain. And that's the self-command that we are all aspiring to develop for ourselves. Once again, simple exercises, brain equivalent of lifting a dumbbell. What we advise, again, it's a masterclass, we won't be able to elaborate more on this, but shifting your attention as much as possible to your body and the five senses. So just before this masterclass, if I'm feeling absolutely nervous, I'm feeling anxious, I have learned certain simple exercises where I just spend some time doing these PQ reps, getting centered, getting my energies back, getting into my sage mode, and here I am. And continuously doing this forms new neural pathways. I mean, your teachers, I need not say more on this. And to really see impact, what we recommend is at least 100 PQ reps every day, and some ideas on how we can do it in the middle of daily routines, mindful practices you may have in terms of meditation, yoga, eating mindfully. Sounds very simplistic, but our work shows that even people who are looking at health, body weight, and all that, mindfully eating, just feeling the taste of that food, and they have reported to us that the weight loss that they were aiming at for years did not happen, but these simple practices and profound impact. Listening to music. Now, once again, let me caution, many of us may say, oh, I do all these things, I listen to music. You know, when I'm stressed, I listen to music. When we talk about PQ rep, this listening to music is different. If you've not been doing it that way, let me just elaborate. So this, we're talking about not zoning out. I listen to loud music, I want those dirty thoughts to go away, this and that, so I increase the volume. No, it could be the softest music, but I zone in. I begin to listen to the nuances of the music, the instruments, the singer's voice. Zone in. Playing a sport not to distract myself. No, playing a sport to, or watching a sport to get more involved. So the focus is to move in and not move out. So in short, just 4 simple steps, very, very practical for each one of you to take away and teach your students, your communities. If you're feeling negative emotions, stop. That's an indication. It's the left brain. Intercept your saboteurs. Don't judge. Don't get angry. Yeah, again, a warning. If you take away something, you're not supposed to be saying, oh, there I hear my judge. No. So in my practice, I've heard people call their judges as Casper. I have one who said Hitler. So people have actually given names to their saboteurs and judges. All right. So they say, okay, Miss Stickler, I hear you. Miss Perfect, I know what you're saying. It's fun. It's fun and ease. And so intercept your saboteur, give it a nice, cute name, and say, shh. If you've not watched the movie, watch Luca. There's a small portion in that movie which I think I'm forgetting the name. If it comes back to me, I'll tell you. But how you just say, shh, quiet, I'm not listening to you. Do your PQ reps, assume the sage perspective, generate the gift shared by, the powers shared by endless applications. So as we said, it's the root cause. Fundamentally, if we understand this, and all this we are talking about in terms of our own practical experiences, be it schools, be it institutions, teams, relationships, if this is one thing that each one of us can understand and use, each one of us will be happier, healthier homes, happier, healthier societies, and a world. So when Busula, you spoke about, the world going through certain stress and the mental health, give it a shot for yourself and the people you impact. Because at the bottom of it all is this one fascinating organ, the brain. Is it really possible to shift from saboteur to sage, even in tough challenges? The answer, obviously, by now you know, is yes. But the speed and depth of the shift depends on the mental muscle. So let's say I have been a practitioner like Reynolds in 6 months, but 3 days ago, there was something in my personal life where I was my worst self. I'm screaming, I'm shouting. And for us, as we learn now, for certain challenges, yes, my muscle is stronger. So what earlier would stress me out and bring out the worst in me or with whom I'm dealing, today I'm able to handle that better. But for another situation, well, I'm still work in progress. So the speed and the depth depends on the mental muscle strength. Bottom line is, for lasting positive change, as teachers, we all know it's not just about theory. We need to put it into practice. So this one masterclass is a great, we would love to believe that we've given you great theory, but that's at the insight level. Once within hours, when the day takes you up, your other responsibilities take you up, you will forget. So we encourage people. The whole beauty is building your mental muscles. Success requires intense initial practice. I think Gavanga said that 6 weeks. So you're right. Sorry? I'm missing somebody's response. So yes, as we cannot defeat a gang of 10 bandits by just sending one new person, we need the full task for the initial period. So generally it's 15 minutes per day for 6 to 8 weeks and you see lasting changes. Any comments, thoughts at this point? We are almost towards the end of what we had offered.
Snap.
Quick.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just put it this way. One word in the chat box, once again, for a feeling that you are feeling at this point. Just one feeling in the chat box to indicate what's going on for you.
Let's see.
One feeling from each one of you to tell us how it has landed on you so far. Thank you.
Empowered. Very good.
And yes, the judge might just write around the corner, so he or she will say, don't write this, don't write that. How can you write this? Are you sure? So tell the judge, I'm not listening to you.
So we get nice comments. So we get empowered, eye-opening,